having a moment to take a breath, that's a profound countercultural moment in the world we're living in, with the amount of complexity, the increasing speed, the overload of information we're taking in from every direction. So to actually have a moment to pause and take a breath and come home to ourselves, that's a radical act, right? So clowning has existed in all cultures across time. It shows up in different ways. Shakespeare plays, in Indigenous practices. It's medieval times, that role of the jester, the fool, who has permission to speak truth to power and to do it in a playful way.
I feel like people have this sense of, I can't be joyous right now because I'm trying to get somewhere. But then in my opinion, it feels like, well, how are you going to be joyful then? If you can't be joyful now, when it's really necessary, like once you get there, it's also just going to be doom and gloom, even if you've finished your objective, I feel.
Certainly, creating a warm and engaging reconnect for your podcast, consider Great Tell Me as a suggestion that combines an upbeat and inviting spirit without any background music. Welcome to Tangelic Talks, your go-to podcast from Tangelic, where we dive into the vibrant world of clean energy, development, sustainability, and climate change in Africa. We bring you inspiring stories, insightful discussions, and groundbreaking innovations from the continent making waves in the global community. Tune in and join the conversation toward a brighter, greener future. Let's get started.
All right, welcome to Tangelic Talks. I'm here with my host Victoria, and I'm Andres, the co-host. And today our guest has spent nearly 4 decades living in Scotland's Findhorn Ecovillage, exploring what it truly means to live in harmony with the earth and each other. Lesley is a depth coach, ancestral healer, leadership guide, breathwork and meditation teacher, clown, and storyteller, weaving wisdom from Buddhist insight, meditation, and indigenous ceremonial traditions into everything she does. Her work is all about presence, joy, and deep connectedness, even in the darkest moments. You might know her from her TEDx talks, saying yes to life, and today she's here to help us say yes to the planet, to each other, and to the unpredictable beauty of being alive.
I think Lesley? That really capsules.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited about this conversation. And nervous.
Great.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And okay,
nervousness is excitement, right? Nervousness and excitement, they're on the same continuum. We're just moving up and down, right?
I like that. Yes. Okay. Well, I want to start with the obvious from your bio, and that's clown.
I was reading that on your website and I was like, what is this clowning thing?
Please, I think that's one of the things most of us are completely unaware of. What is clowning? How do you use it in your work?
So clowning has existed in all cultures across time. It shows up in different ways. Shakespeare plays, in Indigenous practices. It's medieval times, that role of the jester, the fool, who has permission to speak truth to power and to do it in a playful way.
And the entire archetype of playfulness, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how can we be playful in the times that we're living in? The time, there's so much suffering, and feels like what we call industrial growth society is unraveling before our eyes, and we're feeling the impact of it. And it would be easy to get really hopeless and scared and angry. So how can we continue to engage the parts of us that are playful and joyous and are able to orient towards joy? So clowning is a great way to do it.
That's so interesting. So what does it look like? Like, what do you do?
So I've worked in lots of different settings as a clown. One of the key practice areas, I would say, has been working as a clown doctor. So I work in hospitals and hospices with children that have life-limiting illnesses, working with specifically referred children and their families, usually at the bedside. It's not like putting on a show or entertainment, but therapeutic clowning. So we meet families in the most vulnerable circumstances you can imagine. And the task is to connect with the playful part of that child that's still in there, and to support the families to connect with that. Sometimes clown doctor visits are wild and loud and break the usual rules of what hospital life usually is like. Sometimes they can be very tender. We're led by the child. And we always work in pairs, 2 clowns together, entering a context in which there's a lot of feeling, there's pressure, there's grief, there's fear, and bringing a little thread of playfulness in to see what connections we can make together.
That's so beautiful. Oh, wow.
That is so amazing, because you made the point of like, it goes sometimes opposite to what happens in these sort of environments, right? But it shouldn't be the case, right? We are playful by nature. That's what we do. That's how we connect with each other, right? We play, we interact, and I don't know. I just find it beautiful. Sorry, Victoria. I
No. I was just gonna say, I feel like we stop playing when we're adults, right? And being able to have that. Yeah, we kind of mute out.
I would say particularly in the spaces of activism, where we're facing tough realities and we can get very serious.
Yeah.
Because we're scared, right? And because we have a lot of feelings. So being able to stay connected with the reason for our activism, our love for the world and our love for each other, and to express that in ways that feel liberating and joyous, and help us feel what's true, what's real, what's worth standing against, what's worth standing for.
Yeah. And how do you find that balance when it comes to playfulness? Because like you said, we are in spaces, you go into these hospitals, we kind of put ourselves in these places that are very tense. And sometimes we risk making, an insensitive comment or a bit of a mockery of the situation by trying to infuse funniness into it. So how do you strike that balance?
Yeah, good question. I mean, it takes a lot of sensitivity and what we might call attunement, the way we would play an instrument. We make sure all the strings on our violin are in tune. Otherwise, it's awful, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing that happens in a clown doctor visit is getting permission from the child to enter their room.
Right.
So tuning into them and having sensitivity towards how close does the child want me to be, how far away. We work in pairs, in partners, so it's possible to keep a big distance initially, and a relationship happens between the clowns. There's usually some dynamic going on between them that the child is then invited to witness and start engaging with. Sometimes one of the clowns, it's a kind of classic for one of the clowns to arrive and say, "Can I just hide in your room for a second? My partner, there's another clown here. He's driving me crazy. I promise I won't talk to you. I'm not going to do it. We're not going to talk. I'm just going to hide behind your curtain. Would that be okay?" And the child will either say yes, and the game's on, or the child will say no, and then the game's still on. Because then the other clown will appear. "I hear you." So it's playfully finding a way to sensitize what's possible in this relationship. How are we meeting in the moment? What's here? And how do we invite a playful contact to come in moment by moment?
And what do you think are some of the benefits of having that more light touch with how we engage with things? Because again, it's very easy to fall into the doomsday rhetorics these days. So is there something there of trying to take us out of that oblivion, or is it just a moment for us to take a breath?
I think it can be both. Like having a moment to take a breath, that's a profound countercultural moment in the world we're living in, with the amount of complexity, the increasing speed, the overload of information we're taking in from every direction. So to actually have a moment to pause and take a breath and come home to ourselves, that's a radical act, right? And if in that radical act something sweet or tender or lighthearted or ridiculous comes in that reminds us we are alive, we are making this up as we go along, which the clown is the master at. They don't have a plan. And what's happening in the moment, that is the best thing that could possibly ever happen. Mistakes are opportunities for clowns. So in that, if we manage to create a pause and we have a moment together, then we feel into, okay, what's here? What's possible beyond the plans, the strategies, the data, the statistics?
Yeah.
What have we got? What have we got that we can call in and rely on?
I really like that. I think grounding is one of those things that we take for granted because we don't really have the time to sit and meditate, or we don't find the time to do it, right?
I feel like people have this sense of, I can't be joyous right now because I'm trying to get somewhere. But then in my opinion, it feels like, well, how are you going to be joyful then if you can't be joyful now when it's really necessary? Like, once you get there, it's also just going to be doom and gloom, even if you've finished your objective, I feel.
Yeah, that's such a great comment. We spend so much time living in the future, right? When I get there, then I'll be happy, then I'll be joyous, then I'll be at peace. I mean, this is it. This is all we've got. We have no idea where we're going.
Yeah.
We
got to enjoy the ride.
And are we going to live now? Are we going to live what we've got?
Yeah.
I mean, we're due for a super volcano eruption. It could all be gone tomorrow. You know, like we won't have to worry about the climate and this and that anymore.
And I guess that's where it gets hard, right? Like, how do we balance living in the now without, I think a lot of people also, the YOLO thing of, oh, well, you have one life, do whatever, don't worry about that, And how do we balance that between let's be happy now, let's enjoy the now, without also, kind of neglecting the future? Because there's a lot of things that if we want to see change in, we have to work for that future.
Yeah, exactly. But living in the now does not mean the future is not here. It means that we're connected with our resources for shaping that future. And what do we want the future to look like? Or do we want to pull forward our terror?
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to pull forward a sense of deep connectedness, of reverence for life, of a capacity to celebrate what is ridiculous and hilarious? I mean, what a predicament we're in as a species. I mean, unbelievable, right?
Yeah, well, we're trying to figure that one out, aren't we? And you're also an ancestral healer. What does that mean?
I wouldn't call myself an ancestral healer, but ancestral healing happens in some of the work that I do, particularly working with psychedelics. Also with a form that I use in my coaching work called family or organizational constellations, where we invite the wise and well among our ancestors to be felt by us and to resource us, calling in their skills, their talents, their capacities, but also just being aware of the fact that we are alive because they lived. We are the best of them. We're the bit that survived. Mm-hmm. Against all the odds. We're here.
Wow.
So having that sense of a lineage or a legacy of those who've come behind us and having, and most families have got situations, right? There's always dynamics in families. It's not about thinking of them as some perfected beings, but to live with gratitude for having been given life to be here at all, with the opportunity to engage with what's happening in our time and to shape the future.
That's so interesting. And does that relate to your relationship with nature as well?
Definitely, because our ancestors are not just human,
Mm-hmm.
right? This earth is our ancestor. In some traditions, they call the earth the Mother Earth because everything we grow, everything we eat. I mean, I remember sitting. I was on a meditation retreat. I was sitting, eating. I was with a group of people who were practicing in silence. So we were having a silent meal. I had a plate of salad before me, and I looked down at the salad, and I thought, I'm alive because of you guys. Everything on this plate, you and all your ancestors, all the plants. For those who eat animals, they would be included as well. Like, we're alive because of them. We're not separate. So when we talk about ecological harmony or living in an ecologically sustainable way, we're not separate from this planet we're trying to save.
Mm-hmm.
We're it, right? We're made of earth. We're made of water.
What do you think? And we brought this up a couple podcasts ago with another guest. What do you think about the people that sort of view humans as separate from nature, like as their own entity? We're divided and we shouldn't interfere. When I feel that we are untetherable from it, right? Like, or how would you explain it? We're so deeply tied into it. We have so much deep history that we can record as humans our history with nature. I feel like it's doing a disservice to ourselves to think of ourselves as outside of it. I don't know what you think.
It's not my personal embodied experience that I am separate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. That's.
But I know the feeling. I know what it feels like to go for a walk and to have to be so busy in my mind that I'm not really taking in the landscape I'm in, that I'm in this kind of little human-centric bubble of planning and remembering. And I also know what it feels like to become aware of that and to have been lucky enough to have received some tools, some trainings, some teachings that support me to be able to be aware this is what's going on and to drop the protectedness, the guard, that and to look out and to feel out, to use my senses to feel what I'm immersed in, inside, outside, right? And I feel like that experience of being separate from nature, that's really common in the societies, the cultures that we have created. It's not an accident. Our industrial growth society encourages us to be focused on a separation that allows us to dominate and control and do horrific things.
Yeah.
In the service of endless growth, right?
Yeah.
Endless so-called growth.
For
So
sure.
it's very handy for systems to have us think that we're separate, but we know we're not, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. If we could step out of that bubble, we would know we're not.
Right. And we knew, and in many cases, we need tools, we need practices, we need to cultivate that sense of connectedness, that liberation from systems that'll keep us in a little box.
Yeah. Is that what led you to live in an eco-village? How did that come about? And what does it mean to live in an eco-village? How's that different from different communities that we might see in cities?
Well, I mean, I was traveling, I'm Canadian. I had left Canada at 19, running from the culture that I left. I had no idea what I was looking for. And I went to Findhorn. I met somebody who'd been there who told me a little bit about it. And I immediately felt at home. And I've lived a lot of my adult life here. So Findhorn is one of many different eco-villages and communities on the planet. It's an older one. It's in over 60 years it's been going, and there's been lots of different waves. The waves of development, waves of intention, different focuses, we have a strong focus on being ecological or sustainable on a physical, practical level. So the way we build houses, how we grow food, and so on. Obvious things that are now obvious in lots of places. But we've also developed a lot of social technologies for being ecological. So how do we make decisions? How do we relate to each other? How do we have an experience of seeing the other in myself and myself in the other? And community is a brilliant place for getting that personal healing and planetary healing are not two different things. They are simultaneously, we are, even with people who annoy us, right? Or we don't have anything in common with, or so we think.
That's incredible. Getting to that level of connectedness, I can imagine, takes some level of not just maturity, but openness, right?
For sure, openness and willingness to learn and willingness to make mistakes. Because it's not a utopia. We are in the mess with like everyone else. I would say the thing that makes it healing and distinct is that there is a shared commitment to face the mess together and apply our best thinking, our most playful approaches, tenderness, to holding each other in the difficult places and exploring how can we build a collective that can move forward. So the individuals flourish and the collective radiates that flourishing. And that commitment's really strong. And sometimes it's a pain in the butt because it takes a lot of energy and you get faced with yourself and faced with others, right? But we share that intention and that commitment. Yeah.
That's another one, right? Like you have this idea, and as you've said, it's been planted in us that it's either the prosperity of the individual or as a group. But like we are individuals, we exist in a group, and we're intertied, right? Like you can be both. You can make a system where the individuals flourish in a way that helps everyone. People are very doom focused when it comes to that. They don't believe that can happen.
Well, it's a constant process, right? It's like a tap dance, basically, of figuring out how to honor individual and collective needs. And in different moments, you hit challenging things, hotspots, where the individual needs flare up and the collective needs seem to move into the background. How do I acknowledge my own needs, my own boundaries, and also continue to expand what's possible in terms of our understanding and compassion, to keep growing these hearts that can feel compassion and can act with compassion as the fuel.
Yeah. When you talk about that, it makes me think of activists who burn out because they are so focused on the movement that they've kind of let go of their own well-being to be part of this movement. And then they kind of get turned off by the movement because they think the movement did this to them, but they're also really passionate about the work. So now they feel isolated. And, it's this thing of being able to take a step back, but also recognizing that as part of the collective, you're not alone. And I think a lot of people feel alone these days.
I would say that sense of disconnection is the primary dis-ease of our times. Disconnection from the living planet that we spring from and that we're going to return to. We don't know when, but we know for sure we are going back. And disconnection from each other, the polarization we have between different collectives on the planet. That is, and like any disease, it takes some kind of medicine. It takes intelligence, skill, care, sometimes more time than we want it to take to heal together.
And do you have any practical or personal practices that have supported your own sense of ecological well-being and healing? Are there things that you started doing that you feel, could be a gateway for people to start implementing in their own lives?
Yeah. Well, I've been meditating. I'm 60 years old. I turned 60 this year, so I've got 4 decades of meditation practice sitting underneath me as a foundation.
What is meditation? What is it?
What is meditation?
Mm-hmm.
It's the practice of paying attention to what's present in the moment and bringing a curious, kind attention to experience as it arises, as it's present, and as it moves on.
Right. So turning off the filters, I guess, like really focusing on all the senses and what you're receiving at the moment, instead of being in that hyper focused state where you're blocking things out. Like, is that basically what the mechanism is? And how do people start? Like, should people start doing that? Is that something people should do?
I mean, everybody I work with in all the different settings I work always include meditation. Yeah, because it's been so helpful to me. That's why I include it as part of my embodied experience. It taught me how to be with experience as it is, not how I want it to be, not how I think it should be, but how it actually is, and to bring that kind of curious, kind attention to myself. And it's a way of really experiencing my connectedness. And it doesn't necessarily mean the filters are out or that I'm freed from that. Or that I meet the and slow it down enough to actually see, okay, what is actually going on here? And how am I making it worse with all my reactivity to it? Is it possible to do what you said, to just pause? Can we find micro moments of pausing in the flurry?
That's what I've heard a lot of people say with meditation, where it's like, it's more of a mindfulness thing than anything, of just sit there for a second, recognize you're alive. Anytime you do guided meditation, a lot of the instructions are feel your skin, feel your feet against the ground, like ground yourself, literally just feel that you are here. Because in that it kind of feels like you're on autopilot many times, and kind of coming back, like you said, coming home to yourself.
To this body,
mm-hmm.
This part of ourself, right? And this heart that has all these feelings coming and going, endless wave. And for some of us, we don't even have many feelings because the mind is so dominating, it's so loud that we can't really hear the nuanced stuff.
Yeah.
And self-awareness can be terrifying.
Yeah,
definitely. Right? Like, no, not that.
Put
the escapism on.
Truly terrifying. That's why we run around with our phones. We feel ourselves busy with input. It's a very brave thing to just sit with yourself.
Yeah.
And I find it really helpful to do so. It also makes me more compassionate and understanding of all the distractions we come up with individually and also in our cultures. We miss out and we protect ourselves, right? All those distractions are a very handy protection.
Yeah. Because when we don't have the tools to sort of deal with them in the moment, right? And I think a lot of people fall in this trap of having to be perfect at, being an environmentalist or being connected to the earth, being green, all these things. So what would you say to that? Like, what even is perfect?
This is where being a clown really comes in handy, because a clown, the mindset of a clown, the approach is that mistakes are the biggest gift of anything. The clown knows they don't know, and celebrates all the parts of them that are not perfect, celebrates the mistakes. They sometimes call clowning the art of revealing what we try to hide. Some of my clowning work takes me into organizational settings or to conferences. And the job there is to play out the tensions that are palpable, that are felt by everyone, but aren't being named. So the clown can take take them on and play them out, exaggerate them so that we can see them together.
Yeah, the power of comedy at that point.
And the power of our imperfection. I mean, none of us has got it all figured out. We walk around trying to appear like we know what we're doing and we're competent, but inside we're all vulnerable. We're all making it up moment by moment. None of us have a clue. We think we know, right? But we know we don't know.
And I think being able to accept that is the challenge many times. When you think of a world that's deeply in ecological balance, what does that look like? What do you think would be the biggest change we would see in our current society if that was the case?
Such a great question. Because that takes us into the visionary parts of us, right? What world can we imagine as possible? Definitely, I see a world where people feel connected. So connected to themselves, connected to others, not just the ones who are in their immediate circles of influence, the ones who are known, but can have the capacity to feel connected to folks they've never met before, who have completely different values and views from them. To feel connected to this body, to know this is me, I'm in here, I am this. Connected to our elements, to the earth. So that sense of family, familia, interbeing, as one of my dear teachers, Thich Nhat Hanh, refers to this experience as interbeing. It's like radical interdependence on each other. So I mean, even if we just had that, I think the decisions we make, the choices we take, the actions we take would be radically different.
We've been taught that this interdependence, which is deeply ingrained in us, is a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like we shouldn't depend on one another. We shouldn't be connected with one another so deeply. When I feel like our natural state is actually, we're supposed to. That's what makes us care about each other and ourselves. Where do psychedelics fall into this?
When I created a website this year, and a few of my colleagues, my psychedelic colleagues, said, "You better not put clowning on there, Lesley. I mean, people are not going to see the connection."
I see. I can visualize it. I love it.
So plant medicine, psychedelics are another way of opening the fields of possibility and facilitating that sense of being family with the world we're immersed in. They're not for everybody, that's for sure. But for some of us, they can be portals, real openings, and particularly if they're combined with meditation or other reflective practices. So they're not like a magic pill. You take it, you go on a trip, and then it sorts you out.
There's prep work to be made, right? Like it's something you should do responsible about.
Absolutely. And to work with a practitioner who you build a relationship of trust with, who is really focused on ethics, on safety, who does proper screening to ensure that it is a good fit and it is a good moment to work with a psychedelic. So it takes a lot of prep,
Mm-hmm.
and it also takes a lot of integration. It's another step on the path. And for some people, it's a kind of turbocharged step that can open up and reveal a lot. The word psychedelics was coined in the late 60s. It means mind revealing. So we get to see how this mind operates. We get to see it without the usual filters of defense. And that can be incredibly beautiful, amazingly illuminating and magical. And it can also be really challenging.
Yeah.
So set and setting, the context in which you work with a psychedelic, the facilitator, the person who's holding you, those are really personal choices. And they need to be done with a really high degree of attunement and respect and playfulness. What do you know?
Look at that. Well, we are going to get a bit more into that in the blog section. But Lesley, thank you so much for joining us. As always, remember you can check out the blogs at tangeliclife.org, and any resources that Lesley wants to share with us will be linked there as well, and you can find her page there as well. And you might want to try out a session. Go check out the Ecovillage she's at, and stay tuned for the next episode of Tangelic Talks. Thank you.
Thanks, you guys. That was delightful.
Let's talk power, let's talk change. From rural lights to brighter days. Equity rising, voices strong. We're building tomorrow where we all belong. Tangelic Talks, energy, equity, pride. Empowering the world, side by side. A spark becomes a fire, a vision that's true. Together we rise, it starts with you.